Welcome back to CBS News. I'm Tanya Rivero.
And I'm Nikki Battiste. And here's a look at the top stories we're following this half hour. President Biden is calling for calm and patience after the latest consumer price index report shows the highest rate of inflation since 1982. The numbers will likely mean a steady rise in interest rates and more speed bumps for the White House as it tries to move the president's economic agenda forward.
And the Department of Homeland Security is warning a trucker protest like the one in Ottawa could disrupt the Super Bowl. The demonstration against COVID vaccine mandates in Canada has forced officials to close a vital border crossing between the U.S. and Canada.
And new potential legal problems for former President Trump. The National Archives and Records Administration is calling on the Department of Justice to investigate his handling of White House records. This comes after officials retrieved 15 boxes of records from Mar-a-Lago Resort in Florida. These records should have been handed over to the government.
Meanwhile, the investigation into the January 6th attack on the Capitol is now centering on one of former President Trump's top advisors. Members of the committee subpoenaed Peter Navarro Wednesday. They say he has information directly relevant to their investigation. But as with subpoenas issued to other former White House staffers, there is no suggestion he will cooperate. For more on this, we want to bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Scott, welcome. Great to have you with us. So, former President Trump says there is nothing to this request from the National Archives and that he's been told he had no obligation to give this material back, though he did so willingly. So we know that asking for an investigation doesn't mean there will necessarily be one. So what happens next here?
Well, Tanya, this adds a level and a layer of intrigue to an already intriguing story. These 15 boxes of White House records reportedly at Mar-a-Lago and not where they were supposed to be potentially. So the archives asked the Justice Department for a possible investigation. It adds the layer of intrigue, but it also adds a layer and a shroud of secrecy. When the U.S. Justice Department launches investigations or is asked to investigate, it doesn't comment on the investigations, doesn't publicly detail the investigations. What's more, if there's no finding of any misconduct or negligence or potential criminal activity in a Justice Department review, they don't even announce or detail what they've done or what they've looked at. So we're in a secretive stage of a review when it's been asked for but hasn't been completed. All that being said, this news and this request from the National Archives has reignited interest in January 6th, in the papers of the former president, in Donald Trump's conduct in office and after leaving office. It's been all senators have been discussing going to and from meetings today. We talked to Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who said, let them look into it. I don't know the rules. Let the review happen. Senator Dick Durbin, the Democrat on Judiciary's committee, said this is a worthwhile investigation. In his mind, the president's papers are the property of the American public. So it's reignited debate about Donald Trump on a day when there is some tough news for the Biden administration with inflation soaring.
Scott, as Tanya mentioned, the January 6th committee issued a subpoena to Peter Navarro on Wednesday. He has not shied away from his role in trying to overturn the 2020 election. Two other Trump allies, Steve Bannon and Mark Meadows, have been held in contempt of Congress for refusing to comply with subpoenas. How important of a witness is Navarro, and do you think he will comply?
There are 500 witnesses so far, Nikki, according to the January 6th committee. Peter Navarro, though, is a particularly high-profile one, and one who is particularly close to the Trump inner circle. And that's the trajectory we see out of this committee, moving closer and closer to the Trump inner circle. According to the January 6th committee, one of the reasons they want to talk or get records from Peter Navarro is they believe he was part of the planning for stopping the count, or in the words you see on the screen, as made by the January 6th committee, part of the efforts to overturn the results of the election. He's been vocal about that. In his response to this subpoena, he says he's one of the last people on God's green earth who wanted to see violence January 6th, but he's an important player for the committee. We'll see if he honors that subpoena and follows it, follows the request for information and for paperwork, because many others in that inner circle, from Rudy Giuliani to the former president's lawyers, have so far defied the subpoenas.
And Scott, you've been following the Oath Keepers closely. You have some new reporting on Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes. He's been charged with seditious conspiracy for his role on January 6th. He is due back in court next week. What's the latest there?
I'm told, Tanya, sometime today or tomorrow, Stuart Rhodes' attorneys will file a new request to get him either released from jail or to block his transfer here to Washington, D.C. for pretrial detention. He's back in court Wednesday to make that argument. But what's more, I've learned the House January 6th committee will be in contact with Rhodes' lawyers after that hearing for a potential second meeting between Rhodes and the investigators. The first meeting between this Oath Keepers founder and the January 6th committee went about 6 hours earlier this month. He invoked his Fifth Amendment rights a lot, I'm told, but also did speak about the founding and the philosophy of the Oath Keepers. There may be more questions for him. Again, it's another example, Nikki and Tanya, of how this House January 6th committee has a seemingly endless breadth and scope and continues to expand.
Great reporting. Scott, thank you so much. Scott MacFarlane on Capitol Hill. We appreciate it.